Good afternoon and welcome to the Great Outdoors with the great Doug. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well, living the dream. Exciting time of year. Some of my favorite time of year. Really starting to get into the heart of fall now, and talking about some of that today.
I was hearing people talking about with the World Series and Monday Night Football, NHL, NBA. It was like a sports equinox where everybody had it going on.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's great. That's one night.
Yeah.
We've got it for the outdoors across the board every day all week long.
Okay.
We've got fishing that's been going. It's the underrated. It's kind of like the.
It's always a good time to go
It's always
fishing.
a good time to go fish.
A wise man told me.
Yep, it's always a good time to go fishing. Our duck, our goose, our partridge, our grouse, our archery deer. We've got so many seasons that are open. And the best thing about the outdoors is, again, within having a tag and having a license, you don't have to wait for the game. You don't have to wait for the game. You don't have to wait until the first pitch. You don't have to wait for the kickoff. You can go out and say,
play ball.
Yeah, play ball. Let's go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, and you've got all of that buildup with October going into November. You've got playoff action for high school football, and we're getting closer to the deer gun season in North Dakota. So we're kind of building up. We're building up our own little ramp as well for the outdoors with the understanding and the knowledge is that there's going to be white, there's going to be snow, there's going to be cold, and we're stealing a couple of days here and there, even if it's a little cooler than it has been, Adam.
Absolutely, and I know that there is a bit of a drop-off coming with the weather, but you still got to wait for the game to come to you.
You do, and
that's life.
And this is, so I was driving over, and the sun was peeking out a little bit. We had some rain, some areas. We had some wind and some cooler temperatures.
Yep.
And I was getting the word that in northern North Dakota, the ducks and the geese from Canada have started to really move in some of the bigger numbers, and that's exactly what the hunters have literally been waiting for about a month. And there's always a migration. So contrary to what some people might think, they think you have to have cold and snow to move the birds out of Canada. The shortening of the days is the main trigger,
right,
for anything.
Okay.
The cold and the snow kind of makes them feed a little bit more, kind of makes them move a little bit faster than what they were. So we did have a migration that was beginning, but now when you've got some cold, you've got some wind, this is really some pretty good duck and goose hunting weather. And knock on. Yeah, it's wood.
This is real wood.
That's wood. That's the real thing. I was like, wow, you got kind of a nice setup.
Not a lot of people have real wood anymore.
Right.
We do.
Yeah, wood bat league.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Tradition.
Yeah, a lot of people have panels and weird stuff. No, this is.
Yeah.
Hear that, folks?
Yep.
That's right.
That's the real thing, and that's what's kind of happened in the outdoors. It's the real thing. It's not plywood. It's not Formica. It's anything like that. So it's really kind of that time what hunters and anglers and anyone that enjoys the outdoors. If you have the time and opportunity to take a few days off, we see that right now where leading up to the deer gun season, the archery deer hunters like, okay, the deer are getting into that breeding season. They're getting into that rut. Let's take off work on Friday and get out there. You see that with the pheasant hunters going, oh man, this is the early part. We're getting towards November. If we want to go chase some roosters, every day you don't go hunting pheasants, somebody else is.
Yeah.
And that means the population is shrinking because somebody else is shooting pheasants and you're not.
Yeah.
So if you've got the vacation
time, a few less pheasants you can go shoot.
Right. So if you've got the vacation and you've got the time, go.
And you got to, you got to come in with a game plan.
Yep.
You can't just expect to win. You got to come in with a plan, and you got a plan to adjust. You got to be ready to see what the game gives you. But I respect those guys who are looking, all right, that day, I got a little PTO. Let's get outdoors. Let's make it happen.
You're going to be able to accept this more than most. Once in a while, the Hail Mary works.
Oh!
Once in a while.
Oh,
you talk about a game plan.
Too soon.
You talk about a game plan.
Yeah.
But once in a while, you just have to step back and let her fly.
Yeah.
And say, I think the birds might be there. I hope they're there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw the ball and touchdown.
So hopefully this holding penalty doesn't get called, and hopefully the second string cornerback is over there, John, with the fans, and maybe Noah Brown's down there.
Keep your head in the game.
Yeah, no kidding.
Keep your head in the game because you just might miss out. So that's the truth is keep your ears and your eyes open. With the migration and the ducks and the geese, just because you go out scouting on a Wednesday night or on a Thursday and there's nothing out there, doesn't mean on Friday or Saturday they're not going to show up. So in all seriousness, like you did reference as well, you get out what you put into it. You put in some scouting, you put in some time, you're going to increase your odds of success, and this is definitely a great time.
For any of these topics, too. So let's get into, we're 10 days, I believe, away from North Dakota deer gun season. Now, I asked you before we started rolling the stream here. So this is different. Obviously, archery season's been open, but deer gun season is about to get started. So what should people be doing right now in preparation?
Deer gun season will open up next Friday, November 8th at 12 noon. And if you can't find your deer tag today, so if you're watching and you're not familiar with deer season in North Dakota, because we have around 100,000 people put in for a deer tag every single year, and you have to have a tag. So you drew the tag, it got mailed out to you in the middle of summer, and then maybe you moved. Or maybe you blame your wife that she took all your stuff and put it someplace else because it was sitting on the bench for so long. My message is, if you go today, look for your deer tag. If you remember, okay, I was successful. I drew one. I remember it came in the mail, and I put that on the desk. I put that in the shop. Go find it right now. Because if you can't find it today, the odds of you finding it 10 days from now on Friday, November 8th at 12 noon are pretty slim.
Yeah.
We do have a replacement or a duplicate process that we can go through, but it takes some time. You got to go online to the Game and Fish Department website and do all that fun stuff. But the big thing is to go find it. If you do find it, put it in a safe place so that you don't lose it. So that's step number one.
Just put it in your truck.
Yeah.
Just like have it in the glove department. You already know where it is.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. But sometimes you put it in the glove compartment, and then the night before you're trying, where did I put it?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you to tape it to your forehead or anything like that.
Or little Larry's playing the glove department, and then, mashing all your papers around, and then you're like, little Larry, where'd you put the deer tag?
It happens.
Little Larry says, what's a deer tag,
What's
Dad?
a deer tag, Dad? And next thing you know, it's sticking on the fridge because, oh, this thing's sticky. This is kind of cool. This is fun.
Yep.
And you're going, that's my buck tag I've been waiting for.
Yeah, there's little Larry's got that on his lunchbox. That does look good on your lunchbox, but...
The sad thing is there's somebody that's watching and they've been through that scenario where, oh, what were you doing? What were you doing? So find your deer tag. And the next thing is, you may have, and one of the traditions with deer hunting is you go with your brother or your dad or your neighbor, you go with your daughter or your sister, whatever. You've got the people that you go deer hunting with, and you go to the same spot. And maybe you haven't been out there since last year. And maybe last year it was CRP grassland, and this year it was farmed and it's corn. Maybe last year it was your high school football coach's land, and you didn't realize that he sold it. And somebody else owns that land. The last thing we want somebody to do is to head out on the opening day of deer season and go, oh man, I don't have permission to hunt this property anymore.
And that's where the refunds come into play?
Well, that's not where the refunds come into play. That's where you got to figure out your game plan now and where you're going to go and what you're going to do.
Because this year is different than...
Yeah, because every year is a little bit different. So we want to make sure that you go out and check the landscape, make sure you check the land ownership, that you've got permission for that. And then there's a whole big checklist of guns and ammunition and all that stuff. But those are kind of two of the big ones, is to make sure you've got your tag and then make sure you know where you're going, because we're going to have, around 60,000 different hunters that are out there. And you get out there and, oh, I thought I was the only one that was out here. And you have to come up with a plan B. So you got a little time right now to come up with a plan B. You reference a little bit on the deer tag refunds, and that is real. That is happening. What we had was, it's really complicated, but it's called EHD. It's a virus, and we've got dead deer out in western North Dakota.
Okay.
And because of that, we are offering refunds in 5 different units in western North Dakota. The big thing about that is, don't just say, okay, I drew a tag in 3D1, 3D2, 3E1, 4B, 4C, or 4D. You can check that out on the Game and Fish website, where those units are at. Check that on your tag. But don't just say, oh, I'm going to grade a refund, because it's not all across every single unit. There are pockets where there are dead deer. There's mortality where we lost some deer out there.
Okay.
But again, if you're living in Grand Forks, you're living in Fargo, call out to where you typically go and say, hey, any dead deer out there, and the farmer might say, no, we haven't had any here. I know 5 miles away they had a problem with it, but right here, because it's really in those pockets, and we, on a couple different ways, we don't want people to just request a refund just blindly.
Yeah.
Because maybe you waited a couple years to draw that tag. The other side of it is we don't want somebody to drive 4 hours out to western North Dakota and find out from the landowner that, yeah, we had a bunch of dead deer out here. There's not much left out here. And you're going, oh, man. You have to submit your refund prior to the opening day of deer season. So it has to be postmarked by next Friday, November 8th, and then you can get a refund for that deer tag.
But it has to be postmarked by that day.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And you said those are all in western North Dakota?
Yeah, all out in southwestern and in western North Dakota is where we're offering the refunds. It's not something that we like to do every year, but we also look at it as a point of if somebody draws a deer tag and they go deer hunting, we want them to at least have an opportunity. If they miss the deer, that's on them. If they drive out there and they don't even get out of their truck to go walk, that's on them. But if there has been mortality, if they do have a loss of deer out there, we don't want somebody to put all that time and effort into it and then go, man, I put all this into it and the deer where I typically hunt had died from EHD. So it's not something that we're concerned about, transmission to humans. But this is something that is deadly to the deer, and it's unfortunately happened. I think we've had about 50 different reports, a couple hundred different deer out there. And the other thing is, so archery deer season continues on. If you are out there, if you're pheasant hunting, you're archery deer hunting, and you find dead deer, you can log that on the Game and Fish Department website. You can document it and then let us know where, how many deer, what you found. You can submit that on the Game and Fish Department website. That helps our biologists find out how significant the impact of the dead deer, where they're at, different locations, and how many deer that have been found.
And what are the units, in case anyone's maybe watching this and wondering if they are eligible for a refund? What are those units?
So it's on the Game and Fish website, gf.nd.gov. It's 6 different units: 3D1, 3D2, 3E1, 4B, 4C, and 4D. And I venture to say if you've hunted in those units in the past, you've got friends or family that also, they might be aware of it as well, but you might want to let them know and just say, hey, maybe we should think about this a little bit and decide if this is something that we want to do, if we want to get the refund or not. But it's an option that's out there. It's an option.
Yeah, and the clock is ticking.
Yeah, right.
You got some time to get your refund if you want to do that. If you want to make other arrangements, you still got time to do that. Before we get into some of the other hunting stuff, I want to recap one more time because, like we said, that's coming up real hot, November 8th. So right now, you're saying we want to be finding the deer tag, getting your ammunition ready, getting ready. One more time, a recap of those things we got to be doing.
So the other part of that is understanding that with any deer season, things change. And the landscape changes. There were massive fires in western North Dakota, and maybe you heard about them, but maybe that's a place that you used to go deer hunting, and you drive 5 hours out to western North Dakota, and you get out there, and all you see is charred rangeland. Mm-hmm. So that's a really, really vivid example of what might happen if you don't check ahead and find out where you're going deer hunting. Other things can happen where the land has changed ownership, where you used to have a college roommate and you used to go hunting on his land every single year. Well, they sold the land. And now you're, whoa, I didn't realize that they'd sold the land. This is where we always go hunting. There may be another spot where has always had some thick slough grass where deer, big bucks like to hang out. This is where we always hunt. And you go out there and, well, this year it was planted to corn or planted to soybeans, and you go, whoa, this thing changed. And we really try to remind people that as few surprises as you can have is the best part about it. I mean, you want to be surprised? The big buck comes jumping out of it. That's what you want to be surprised about. Yeah. You don't want the surprise to be, oh man, there was 10,000 acres that got burnt in a wildfire 3 weeks ago. There's no deer out here. There's no place for those deer to hide in. And unfortunately, I think that's going to happen to some people. I think there's going to be some people that are going to go, man, I heard about it on the news. I didn't realize it. This is the place where we always go hunting at. And with the heritage and the tradition that deer hunting are, that's really kind of one of those things that you're in control of, is where do you go and what do you do? And by checking ahead, you got 10 days to check ahead and find out. And you might find out from your old college roommate, nope, there was a fire, but it was 2 miles north of us. We didn't have any of that. We still got some pretty good places to hunt deer, so we should have a good deer season. And getting into the brass tacks of it all, our deer population isn't where we want it to be. It's not where the hunters want it to be. We've had some tough winters a couple of years ago, but the bottom line is the opportunities are out there, and we're getting closer and closer, and it's kind of an exciting time of year.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it earlier, but let me ask you point blank here. So is this the best time? I know we're talking about deer season, but is this the best time for duck and goose hunting?
It just might be. Sometimes we get, like last year, we had some pretty good snow the backside of October.
Okay.
And that really kind of kick-started a little bit of the migration. And the way it's looking right now, the birds have been moving into northern North Dakota, and listening to the forecast, it doesn't sound like it's going to be too nasty here for the next 10 days or so. So moving into deer season, this might be one of those deer seasons where you're out there walking for deer and you're looking around and go, wow, we got ducks and geese all over. If you didn't draw a deer tag, don't think that you have to stay home. We got pheasant hunting and grouse hunting and partridge hunting. The ducks and the geese are moving, and that should continue to improve over the next, probably week to 2 weeks. So we may have some of the best duck and goose numbers and duck and goose hunting right smack dab in the middle of deer season this year. And hey, that's the way it happens.
And it sounds like just in general, great time, maybe the peak time to be out in the outdoors hunting, especially before it gets a little too cold. This is kind of that sweet spot.
And it is. One other reminder. We did get a little bit of rain, but not enough, and we get some sunshine and some warm temperatures. It's going to get dry again. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that we don't have a repeat of any kind of fire
absolutely.
situation.
Sure.
So again, make sure there may still be burn bans that are in different counties and different areas. So that's another thing to check ahead on, is to check if the county that you're going hunting in has any kind of burn restrictions or anything like that, because it's something that I think we're going to be dealing with through the rest of the fall hunting season, Adam.
Good to know. So 2024 North Dakota deer season opening Friday, November 8th, 12 noon. Closes Sunday, November 24th. Deer tag $30, general game license $20. All that's on the mobile app, and also gf.nd.gov.
Kickoff, 12 noon, next Friday.
Huge for the program. It's going to be good. And then send us some pictures. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. Love to see it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome, Doug. Thank you. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.
And that's all for now on Valley News. Now, Adam Shalfa with Doug Leier, and you've been watching the great North Dakota Outdoors. We'll see you next time.